Hello, welcome to the UiPath tutorial by Mayuri Chris. Today we are going to learn how to make a simple process and how to get used to this interface because what in the world is UiPath? I ran out of intros. Anyway, let's just get to it. So on the left side, we have open a local project. This is basically the opening of a project file if you already have a project file. That or you can open recent, of which normally I use open recent. On this right side, you have new project where um, kind of just cross out all of this. You will not need to really look at this part. We'll be focusing more on process. So let's create a new process. And let's just call this new process. You can create anything you want. Personally, I like to call my stuff really weird names. So we're gonna call this episode 1. And you can change the file location of where you're going to store this. So I recommend having a folder in place. I have this folder in place, and you can create a description, of which I'm not going to create a description because I don't need it. But now we will generate the workspace. Now, if you haven't have done the prerequisites of this video, which is download UiPath, go do it now. Just go to UiPath website and just download the UiPath Studio community version. That's the version that I'll be working on so that everybody can use it since it's free and nobody can complain, say, why are you using the enterprise version? Yeah. Okay, so this is generally what you'll be looking at. You can arrange the interface around. After all, it is an IDE, but the difference is personally, I just like to keep it like that. So that's personal preference, up to you. Anyways, what you'll be looking at is there are there's three main tabs you'll look at: project, activities, and properties. These three help to really form your basic workflow. So what essentially is a workflow? A workflow is kind of like um, your entire program in general, I guess. So one workflow would be, for example, getting to point A to point B. And getting to point A to point B, you'll have many different activities ahead of you. For example, sequence, for example, a write line, a message box. Yeah, so that's kind of like what will go on. So next up, I'll explain a bit about what is in this tab here. So what are dependencies? Dependencies are kind of like templates which you will play around with. For those of you that are more well versed in coding, it is the using at the top of the like your code. There's the using area. Yeah, that's basically dependencies. An example would be UiPath.excel.activities. It allows you to do interactions with Excel directly without needing you to like do a long roundabout coding. There's like direct Excel interaction. Uh, what are activities? Activities are kind of like they're blocks essentially. They're like blocks of which allow you to perform tasks without needing you to like code from scratch things. However, how this differs from block coding, in my opinion, is you have a lot more control here than block coding. Like block coding is kind of like just kind of really drag and droppy. This is more like drag and droppy, but you need to have an understanding of what to do because the drag and drop really doesn't do much in this thing, honestly. For example, here, this is for each row. That's it. It just drags a for each there. You still need to code out everything. So yeah. So what we're gonna do now is I'm going to teach you how this all works. So when you open the main workflow, as you can see, we have nothing. Uh, so what I'm gonna do is this is called a sequence, and it is going to be your best friend. So what is a sequence? A sequence is basically like a container containing events or activities. I should stop saying events. Activities is the better word for it. So a sequence contains activities. For example, a message box, a sign. Makes sense now? It's a sequence, and then the arrow will be like the flow of events. I'll just get rid of these real quick. So a sequence essentially is like a container, right? So all you really can do is just like name it. So I'm gonna name this one hee. So next up, oh yeah, you can. I should probably say that you can add a sequence within a sequence. Whoa, containers within containers. All right, so next up, we're gonna go over the most important part, which is variables. So what is a variable? A variable is kind of like math, where you will use variables to store data and then use that data to perform functions later. How do we store data? There's a couple of ways. For example, let's say you are, this is an example scenario. Let's say you are trying to extract uh, a bunch of data from a website. You will extract the data and then save it into a variable and then call that variable later on to, let's say, perform a function depending on what the variable is, so that you can display it later. So how do variables differ in this one? You can adjust the name of the variable type, the default value of the variable, and most importantly, the scope of the variable, which is different in this in UiPath compared to Visual Studio. So so I'm going to create a basic variable within he just to really explain. So this is called number, and under this variable type, you can just click down and then it will generate. There's a lot more types. However, these are the basic types we'll be looking at. Boolean returns true or false. Int32 is like numbers. There is decimal, obviously, but that's not right now. String. Int, by the way, is not decimal numbers. You cannot use decimal numbers for int32. String is basically like words, characters. For example, say hi. Objects, system.data, the data table, and arrays are for uh, much more data storagey stuff. And to me, the most common I use are these two, along with these three. I rarely use object. So yeah. Let me explain what the scope is actually. But first, let me just input the default value as 0. All right. So as you can see here, there is a. Oh wait, sorry. This is a number, so I'm supposed to put this as int32. Sorry. So let's see. Okay. So as you can see here, let me just create another scope, and I'm gonna name this haha. So I'm gonna explain what scope does. So as you can see, when I click on the he sequence, it shows me that this variable is within the he scope, meaning it can be used as long as it's within the he scope, which, for example, haha is within the he scope, meaning that it can be used within. However, let's say I click the haha scope and I create say hi within the haha scope instead, and it is a string value of say hi. Within here, it shows two variables, right? But if you click he, it only shows one. So that's what scope does. It essentially is like tagged. It's like your variable is tied to the container that is within. So let's say I want to use number within haha, I can, because this overall container is within this container. However, because this is made inside here instead of outside, I cannot use it. However, what I can do is just adjust it to like that, and now both of them have it. So now to create our first like just random RPA, what we're gonna do is just drag a message box. As you can see, there's this actual activity here has actual like inputs and more properties that you can mess with. But all you really can do, not say really can do, but what we're gonna be just doing is just generate a message. So the message box is always gonna be in a string format. So we need to write this code in a string format, and basically what this will do is say show the number, which is 0, and the say hi, which is this thing. So you show number say hi. Another way to assign a value to a variable is with the assign function. So what we can do, for example, is assign. Okay, wait, before I do this, let me just show you what's the output. So let's say the default, as you can see, the default value is 0 and say hi. So let's just save this real quick. Always save your work, guys. To run the file, you want to go to here and to use the run project button. Oh, sorry about that. Anyways, it shows the message button and it says say 0 and then a spacing and then say hi, which is the default values. But what we are going to do next is let's change the value of these variables using this assign tab. So each assign tag can be only tagged to one variable. So this two, for example, number, and then this is say hi, right? So you can this one will be a number, this is string. So let's change this to 1 because it's another number. And instead of say hi, let's say hello world. So these are the default values, but because we're assigning values instead, these assign things will override these default values, and the new message should be 1 and hello world and not 0 and say hi. So just to prove it, let's just run. And now it is 1 and hello world. Thank you for watching. This is the first episode on how to assign variables. In the next episode, we will be looking at how to capture screen stuff or more basic stuff. If there's anything you want me to cover, please let me know in the comments below. And I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.